Good morning, good morning. We are gonna make this quilt today, but before we start, I wanna tell you that you can buy a ticket for an opportunity chance to win this quilt. If you were to commission this quilt, it would cost you $400. It is very big. But you could buy a ticket for a chance to win for just $2 and or 3 tickets for $5. And all of that money goes to the United Methodist Women at St. Mark's in Mesquite. It's 12 people, and they work so hard to do all the good that they can. They're amazing. I love them. Love you guys. And so if you want to know where your money is going, it goes to Mesquite ISD schools. They do a hoodie drive for 6 schools near the church. They give money to the local food pantry called Sharing Life. They do mission donations to Wesley Rankin and the Bethlehem Center. They give to Mesquite Santa Cop. They give to or support the Ready Play Talk program, and they donate to the Mesquite ISD Homeless Student Program. So they're out there doing the work, and this helps them do that. So I hope that you like it when you see how it's made. It's a lot of love. Donations. People donated some of the fabric that is included in this quilt. I love you guys as well. So yeah, let's get to making a quilt. Okay, so everything has to be washed. You have to wash all the things. Okay, everybody's out of the dryer. If you take everything out right as it's finished out of the dryer, it's easier. I didn't, so I have a couple extra wrinkles. I starch and iron everything. It does take a while, but it is absolutely worth it. Ironing. It's pretty basic. I use the fancy high whatever starch that you just saw. I don't get real precious about pressing versus ironing. I know that's a thing for some people. I just want it to be flat, and then I will iron it to have a fold that's straight, and then iron again. And this makes it easy to cut on the cutting board. So here's everybody ironed out. Again, this is all just fabric I already had. When you're a quiltress, you collect, and then people give you things, and it's wonderful, but it is important to use up the stash. Okay, cutting. It's important to take your time and make sure you're aligned, and then it's a really good idea to put your pinky up against the ruler. I don't know if you can see that here. I'm going pretty quick, but that keeps it from sliding when you're putting the pressure from the rotary tool. And that thing is very sharp. Don't do this when you're tired. It's a bad time. Yeah, so I'm just cutting out as many squares as I can with the fabric that I have. And this is me off camera ironing the fold over so that I can get a straighter square. Slipping in a little bonus content. The bottom of the iron gets pretty grubbo. So, but you can unplug it, cool it, and then you can clean it with a magic eraser. And I know they look gross, but they work great. And then I wipe it down with a paper towel at the end. It's so simple, it's so satisfying. I mean, look at, just so shiny.
Okay, so here I am splitting up the squares into the rows. It's easy to get really precious about trying to get it exactly balanced when you're, perfectly random. Um, it almost every time makes some kind of goof. In this case, if you look at the final quilt, there are two blue flowers next to each other, but other than that, I managed to keep them at least same fabrics, not touching in the same plane. And I tried to keep the maroons off the same plane as well, which was kind of hard because there's a lot of maroons in this one. I think it turned out sweet. But this took it took a minute. It goes by real quick here, but it was a while. So there you go. There's a row. And then what I do is get them up close to each other as I'm finishing row by row so that I can see what's touching. Isn't that satisfying? It's so pretty. All right, so we are sewing squares to squares. You want to make sure they're face to face and that they're lined up. Take the time to get them aligned. It's worth it. And then you put it so that the foot on the right side is lined up with the right side of the fabric. That gets you your 1/4 inch seam allowance. And there you go. Hi. And here are all of the rows sewn together. And here we are ironing the seams. And so the way I do this, I will iron one row, iron the seams in one direction. So that one's going to the left, and then the other one goes to the right. And the reason why we do that is because the seams will nest better. You want them just as cozy as possible without overlapping, and that gets you the best alignment of squares. If you're a perfectionist, you want to let that go, because I've been doing this for 20 years now, and I still don't get perfect alignment. It looks pretty good though. So you just squish those seams, just with your fingers you can feel how close they get together, and then you pin them. I align and pin every single seam. I imagine that it's possible other people don't. They just trust it to stick together, but I don't. That's me showing you all the pins. I don't know why. Okay, so again, you line up just like you did square to square, and sew down with your 1/4 inch seam. The thing you want to watch is that the seam on the underneath, that it stay in its direction. So here it would be going up, like to the top of my table, and so we want to make sure that it's laying in the right direction as it's going under the sewing machine's foot. Really, my best advice is to take your time, and again, when you get tired, stop, because you're likely to make more mistakes and then have to rip out your seams and start over, and or have a wonky quilt, which is also fine, but better to just do it when you're not quite so tired, right? I think this is me showing you imperfect alignment, which of course. Here everything's sewn together, and we are ironing the long seams all in one direction. This is us ironing the backing fabric. I chose a Kona wide solid, which is pretty fancy, but nice. And here's the batting. I use the one, it's Pellin Nature's Touch with the scrim binder for strength and durability. Okay, here is the basting in the garage. I do it on a tarp, but it's really sweaty, and I didn't want to film that, so this is just the 3 stages. Okay, and so we're cutting up the excess batting. So we're just basically cutting off the extra along the edges. Again, take your time. When you're cutting something like this, it's very important to make sure there's nothing underneath, like it's not folded over. So slow and steady. All right, so now we're just sewing the seams. For these, I just did what's called stitch in the ditch, where you just sew down each row and column so that each square has stitches. The hardest part of this is to keep the weight of the quilt manageable. Like you have some of it in your lap and some of it's on the table, and if you have a table like mine that's kind of small, it may slide off the table and then it's pulling on your stitches. So you want to sort of keep it all bunched up on the table as much as possible. And there you go. Ooh, pretty. I do love this quilt. These fabrics make me smile. They're pretty good. So yeah, and the backing even looks nice with the little grid pattern. All right, now we're making the binding. So I cut these in 5-inch strips, and you basically put them face to face and then sew the short sides together, one right after the other, so you end up with our, what was it, 390 inches of a strip of connected fabric, right? And now we iron the binding fabric flat. This should be pretty quick because you've already ironed it once. Mostly I do it to iron out the folds and then iron the seams flat. Easy breezy. And so you'll see next, I did not press record for sewing this together. So basically you put this side face to face, like so that the pretty side is out, and then you just sew all the way down. So yeah, there you go. And just sew it, and so you made sort of a tube. All right, so now we're ironing it. I iron it so that the seam is off center from the middle, but still a good, I'd say, 1/3 of an inch away from the edge. What we're doing here is ironing it flat and then ironing it into a book to wrap around the edge of the quilt. So there you go. So it's been ironed flat, and then you fold it over so that the edges meet, and then iron it down just like that. And that makes a little wraparound for the quilt. Next, I'm sure we're putting on the binding. Let's see. Yup. Okay. Okay. So the way I do it at first is I will quick pin it all the way around the edge of the quilt. First, to make sure I've made enough binding, and second, to make sure that none of the seams hit the corners. And then I'll go back through and actually put it, as you see here, wrapped around the edge. And then I will pin it. And then I will do one side at a time, sew it down, turn the corner, and then keep sewing. So here we are sewing it, and again, the thing about making big quilts like this is the weight off to the right, excuse me, off to the left. You have to keep it bunched up so that it's not pulling. Otherwise, it's a lot of strain on you and your machine. And here I just do the sewing all the way around with a 1/4 inch, and then I will go around again and sew a seam or sew a stitch right on the edge, on the inside edge of the binding, and that just keeps it from curling. It's not a requirement, I just think it looks prettier that way. And that's it. We've made a quilt. It gets washed, it gets dried, and then it's time for the photo shoot. Okay, here it is on a queen size bed. Like I said, it is a very long drop, 16 inches. For this mattress, it goes all the way to the floor. I love the color combinations. I think they turned out really sweet. The backing is just a soft cream. And here it is on a king size bed. So this one is versatile. Love you, bye.